Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxwrx Safety Co, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS Flow-Through Technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxwrx, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxwrx.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. and check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. All right, guys, if you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I am bringing you a salty, spicy. I'm bringing you a hot and spicy episode all about becoming a better person, and we are talking to none other but the man whose nickname is not only his nickname, it's also his last name. His last name, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Ronto from OnX is joining us, and he's going to be talking all about living a Type 3 life and so many more adventures. I met Paul this last February down in Salt Lake City as a part of the OnX crew and Soul Seekers Nation, getting together and rubbing elbows and hanging out and riding scooters on Salt Lake City sidewalks. I mean, it was just a great time, but I was like, I got to get to know this guy more. And I'm so glad I have, and you guys are getting full effect of it right here, right now. Without further ado, my man, Paul Ronto in the house. What's up, brother?
Yeah, thanks, man. It's awesome to be here. It was awesome running into you in Salt Lake City and finding another kindred soul that had the same energy level as me. You know, when you're out having fun with the guys, it's hard to find that match. And it was pretty awesome running into J Mac. And first night I ever met this guy, we tore up the town. So yeah, we hit it off there, and I'm pumped to be back here chatting with you.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Dude, I'm so jacked to be here talking with you that I actually cut the sleeves off my shirt, and I'm going sleeveless for this. Letting the guns hang out.
Yeah, his guns are hanging out, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't, I wish you could see this view. It's beautiful. I almost puked when the video conference came online, but my stomach is centering itself. I'm getting used to seeing his hairy shoulders. So.
my
Just kidding, ladies out there. He doesn't have hairy shoulders. He's got nice, svelte shoulders.
You know what's really funny is they say people who have a lot of hair are hairy. So I don't understand why people that have a lot of skin are not skinny.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't have a lot of hair, and I wish I was called skinny. It'd be great.
But instead, they're called fat or heavy set or obese, not skinny. Like they have more skin. Just doesn't.
That's a great point. God, I've never thought of that. I'm kind of glad I haven't thought of that to this point in my life. But
So part of the thoughts that I've had, those occur I know you used to trail run. Do you still trail run?
I do a bit. I mean, I got a crazy story. I actually broke my femur 2 years ago running. It's not a
Really?
typical runner's injury, but yeah, I broke my femur, and so I've slowed down on running. But before I was at OnX, I was big into the running world. I worked for a running company, and yeah, so I've done a lot of trail running, but it's been tampered back a little bit in these last year or two.
Well, you know then about trail running how you got to just think of things because you're on the trail for so long, just like
Yeah,
running, and it's like, okay, what do you want to think about now? And
running in general, man. I'm like anti-music when I exercise and go running, so like your brain goes into some weird places, especially on those long runs.
dude,
And that's the same as hunting though too, and just going on trips out in the mountains. Like you're out there walking around for hours at a time, and your brain goes to some pretty weird spots. So I like that your brain goes to what's the difference between a hairy guy and a guy with a lot of skin. So it tells me a lot about you, Johnny. It tells me where your mind is at. So if we're ever hunting together and we're sitting in a tree stand, we can't talk. I know what you'll be thinking about. I'm on the same level as you.
well, I tell you, this is why we met a kindred spirit down in Salt Lake. It's like, yes, here's my dude. Energy levels are up. All right, so brother, without all the craziness and the wild talk, let's give the listeners a little history on you and what you do and why you're so passionate about the outdoors.
Yeah, totally. So I've been passionate about the outdoors since I was a little kid. I actually grew up outside of Chicago, kind of in the cornfields of Illinois, and I always came out to the mountains every year on ski trips with the family. We'd come out and we'd go backpacking, and it just kind of like was a place that I felt most at home and most comfortable. And so as soon as I could move out here when I was 17, I went to college and came out here as my only option. I didn't even think of staying in Illinois and moved to Fort Collins, which is where I still live. Went to Colorado State, and I've been here now since 2001, so 22 years. And I just absolutely love being in the outdoors. I mean, moving out here got me into a lot of activities I didn't do in the Illinois. So I got into mountain biking and hiking in the mountains. And I actually, for a summer job, my first year in college, I answered an ad in the paper. So papers, Johnny, were these things back in the day that I don't know what your demographic of your listeners are, but listeners out there, papers were these things that they used to write news in. But in the classified section, they actually had a posting for a raft guide job, and I answered that and became a raft guide my first year as an 18-year-old, and was like, I'm hooked, man. Like I just want to do everything I can in the outdoors. And since then, I was a rafting guide on and off for 14 years. I was a hunting guide for a lot of those falls in there as well. I worked at the National Outdoor Leadership School. I worked for a nonprofit called No Barriers, where we took people on epic trips in the mountains, and we helped wounded vets and kids with disabilities get outside and have experiences. And so I've just had all these amazing experiences, and I've seen how powerful being in the outdoors is. And so it's just a huge part of my life. And honestly, that's what drew me to OnX. I mean, I wanted to work for OnX because I wanted to be around people that have that same passion. And everyone that I've met at OnX, whether they're on the hunt team or they're into off-roading or they're into backpacking or backcountry skiing, like they're there because they love the outdoors. And so it's pretty cool to work with people that are really passionate about something.
Oh yeah, totally. I get that 100%. And so interesting, all the different things that you shared, of which we're going to dive more into. Um, you and I have a kind of a similar story. So I wasn't always a hunter. I actually went on my very first backpacking trip when I was in second grade. I did a part of the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail up in the state of Washington. And I was like, dude, backpacking is awesome, but I was scared of bears in the woods. And and so when I got into hunting as a coach in high school football, and the first like big game season that I could actually dedicate time to hunting was black bears because it opened up for high school football.
Yeah,
And so I was
totally.
like, so I'm a bear hunter apparently. But hearing your stories going from Illinois out to the Rocky Mountains, that's a big deal. You went flatland uphill, living up in the high altitude. Well, Fort Collins isn't that high of altitude, right?
It's like 5,000 feet. We're like at the same level as Denver. So Fort Collins is just north of Denver along what we call the Front Range here in Colorado. So you haven't been to Colorado, we've got like a long chain of mountains that divides the state like perfectly in half, north and south. Everything to the east side looks like Illinois. It's just the prairie, and everything to the west side is like big, gnarly mountains. And so Fort Collins sits right on that edge where if you look east, it's flat, and if you look west, that's where the hills start. So it's a pretty awesome place to launch into the woods. You're north of Denver a bit, and so you don't have the traffic up here, and there's kick-ass stuff to do. Yeah, so it's been awesome. It's been really awesome to be able to move out to the mountains and just like really play and live in the outdoors. I don't know what my life would be like if I would have stayed in the Midwest and stayed around Chicago, but I don't have regrets that I came here. I mean, at all. Like, I don't even think what my life would be like back there. So I love it so much out here. It's not even a second thought anymore.
You mentioned earlier about how much you just love the outdoors and how much you love being around people who also enjoy that enthusiasm. One of the things on our podcast that we share through Soul Seekers is this concept that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure. Because when you immerse yourselves in experiences are transformational, right? Like, I could tell you how good something is, but until you actually try it, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, whoa, that was really good. And so when we, drop the ego, lead with courage, and put ourselves out there, amazing things happen. And that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast, is because to encourage people to get out and live. Life is to be lived, right? All men die, but not all men truly live. Speaking of living, that fly that I killed before I hit record just resurrected from the dead. I saw it, but I
Oh no,
but
it's
I
a
got
zombie
it.
fly, man. It's a
Zombie
zombie
flies.
fly. You better watch out. It's probably got rabies.
What's up, Soul Seekers Nation? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. As a reward, I have some discount codes for you to use if you are in the market for a brand new hunting pack. Go check out initialascent.com and Initial Ascent packs. They are made in America. Their one-piece carbon frame is an absolute game changer. We run their packs. We love them. And you can save 5% at checkout by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. Also, for those of you who are archery hunters and you are tired of shooting at dots on a target, check out deadnutsoutdoors.com for their lifelike 2D archery targets. You can save 20% on all of their products by using the code SOULSEEKERS at checkout. Once again, the code is SOULSEEKERS, all one word. Go check out initialascent.com and Dead Nuts Outdoors. Enjoy the podcast.
I just had a rabies scare. There's a total tangent, but I was in Mexico a couple weeks ago and got bit by a dog and had a rabies scare. And when you start looking up what rabies does to humans on Google, it's pretty terrifying, man. So I just want you to know, watch out. That fly might have rabies and might be coming for you.
Dude, that's wild. Well, you know what they say, you never look up anything on Google because all of it always leads to death. Doesn't matter. It's like, oh, I have this rash on my skin. Oh, well, you're going to die.
Yeah, for sure. Everything leads to death. Yeah, you mentioned too, like having these experiences is really what life's about, and it makes you the person you are. I love that about Soul Seekers. When I met you the first time, like I could tell that you had a zest and that you liked having these experiences, no matter what they were. You were down, and I think being in the outdoors is one of those. Like, you kind of just have to go with the flow, and you got to be willing to deal with shitty weather and long hikes and steep uphills and downhills. And like, that's what's cool about hunting. That's what's cool about being in the outdoors and being in the mountains. Like, these experiences are really transformational, but there's this aspect to them that is really, really challenging. And I think that's actually what's transformational. Like, if you just go and do like an easy walk in the park, it doesn't really transform you. But like, going and pushing yourself into these really extreme places and doing something that's multi-day or like multi-miles per day, like, it pushes you into this place where you're like a little unsure. And that's where that experience really starts happening, like getting out of your comfort zone. And so I like that was for me coming to Colorado. It's been 22 years of everything's out of my comfort zone. I grew up in the cornfields, like just walking out the front door, there's 1,000-foot mountains out the back door. So like, I think like you're onto it there, that it's all about the experience, man. That's why we do what we do. That's why we hunt. That's why we get outside. We want to have that challenge, and we want to come back feeling like we accomplished something.
Dude, ain't that the truth? So I love how you took what I said and went deeper with it. Because here's something I've been wrestling with. In the hunting realm, we have this Western hunting style, and then we have the Eastern hunting style, right? The tree stand, the corn feeders, the back 40, sitting and waiting, which in its own regard is hard. It is hard to
It's the
just
hardest.
sit there.
I think it's the hardest way to hunt. I am so bad at sitting. Like, I'm a stalker for sure. I'm bad at sitting.
Yeah.
So also, so like you said that you were an adult onset hunter. I was adult onset hunter as well. I hunted a little when I was a kid. Like, we did some small game, and my best friend and his dad, we hunted deer in Wisconsin, but like I would only get the invite every now and again. My dad wasn't a hunter. We didn't have guns in the house. So like I didn't grow up with it. But in college I got invited on some trips to Africa with my friend and his dad. And
For
so I went,
hunting?
yeah, for hunting. So this goes down a crazy rabbit hole. Not to sour the mood, but my dad passed away my freshman year of college, and so my best friend in high school, his dad kind of took me under his wing and brought me on these family trips to go hunting in Africa all through college. And that's actually what got me into hunting. It was just really fun to see those animals. And living in Colorado, like I would get home and it's just right in your backyard. So I was an adult onset hunter, and so I learned hunting from a stalker's point of view. Like, going and sitting in a tree stand to me is the most foreign idea in the world. And like right now it's turkey season, and I love chasing turkeys, but I'm chasing Miriams in the mountains. Like, I really struggle to sit out in the plains and sit and watch Rios feed around. Like, I got to be on my feet. I got to be going up and down hills. Like, I suck at sitter hunting. So yeah, there's two total camps, the sitters and the stalkers for sure.
What do you think about the Eastern style of hunting and whether or not how that can be transformative? Because this is where here I am. I lived in the state of Washington. I grew up on public land hunting, getting away from people, competition. To you going east and say you have your deer lease and only a couple people are hunting it or whatever it is. And so, can you still get the transformative power through the Eastern style of hunting, in your opinion?
I mean, I think you can. I think it's just totally different. Like, I think one of the hardest things that hunting in the East is the sitting. Like, you have to learn patience, and I think patience is a skill that makes you a better person. Like, I don't have a ton of patience, and it comes out in my relationships. It comes out in my lifestyle. Like, I'm a go 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 type of guy, and like I'm really bad at the patience. So I think there's transformativeness to it. I think one of the big things that Eastern hunters, like growing up in Illinois and Wisconsin, like, is deer camp, right? Like, there's this family aspect that you don't see as much in the West. Like, in the West, I hunt with my buddies, and we've got like a pretty tight knit group. But I'm not like hunting with my parents or my uncles. Like, back east, it seems like it's a really family oriented thing. Like, you go up to deer camp and you all know where you're going to go and you do drives together. So I think that there's something really transformational and really powerful about Eastern hunting. It's just totally different than the experiences you have like in these big open spaces in the mountains. But I don't think there's one is better than the other. I don't think there's obviously like, I don't hunt a lot in the East, but I see the value in it.
Right. I always consider Western hunting as like the ultimate form of manifest destiny. Going back to like American history and Western expansion is like, okay, now we've gone from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast, and now where's the remaining place to go? You go up. You go up in the altitude.
Yeah.
And that is the last final frontier of the American wilderness, is for us to like climb these peaks and find these bowls and like go see places, go stand in a place where there's a good chance that someone's never stood before.
Dude, it's funny you say that. Like, every time I go hunting, like I was out last night turkey hunting, and I got to the top of this ridge and I was chasing this tom, and I thought to myself, like, I wonder if anyone's ever stood here. And of course, it's like not that far from town. Like, someone has had to have walked that ridge and stood there. But it's like so vast, even just 10 miles from town. Like, when you look, you can't see anything but mountains. And I think to myself, like, I wonder if anyone's ever stood in this exact same location. And so it's really interesting that you say that, because honestly, like on an elk hunt, when I'm out in the backcountry, I think that all the time, like, man, I am out here. But in reality, like, people have been here for 100 years, 150 years out west, 200 years. Like, someone's definitely stood there before. But it feels when you're having that experience, like you're having a new, unique experience that no one else has had, which is drastically different than a tree stand on the back 40 that's been hanging in the trees for the last 20 years.
Right. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer, or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And we also have a discount at Graxaw.com. That is, Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout. Okay, so you're going to be 40 in August. Are you a movie guy?
Yeah, I'm a movie guy.
Okay, because I'm about to drop a movie line on you, which this is always comes to my mind every time we talk about this. Okay, here we go. It says, I make noise or I do something that no one has ever done before, and then I can feel unique again, even if it's only for like a second. So, no one's ever done that? No, not in this spot. You just witnessed a completely original moment in history. It's refreshing. You should try it. That is from the movie Garden State. If you've ever seen the movie Garden State, at the end of the movie, they talk about how they just like will randomly do something at some random time and random moment because they're making history and no one's ever done that before. That is how I feel like hunting is. It's like no one's ever lived your story, told your story. You know, I had a great a shout out to Josh Kirshner, Dialed In Hunter. I was talking to him back when I was starting my original blog, and I was like, man, I have this idea for something that I want to write about, but you know, a lot of people have written about it. He goes, man, no one's ever written it from your perspective. No one's ever heard it from your perspective. He goes, it doesn't matter how many times a topic is talked about, written about, spoke about, whatever. It's your perspective and your passion that sets it on fire, and that could be the seed that plants in somebody's soul. And then all of a sudden, here we are. You know, mentorship is conservation. We plant that seed, and you never know what type of spark is going to start a wildfire in somebody's life. The point of like that, just tying it all in and saying, man, I don't know if anyone's ever stood here before. That is, I don't get that in my day-to-day life, right? I don't wake up in my house, have my cup of coffee, get my kids off to school, go to my job, you know, get on OnX and think about all these hunts that I want to do, and then go pick up my kids from school, go home. And I don't like the term grind. I don't believe that life is a grind because it's whatever you make it to be. With that being said, it's like, where's that like American flag on the moon, if that was even real? I don't know. I go conspiracy theory on that. But like, you know, like claiming our moment, like this is it, guys. Live, be here, be present, own it. Leave your mark on society, on this world, and be proud about it. You ever think like that? I mean, we're going deep thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I like the plug for OnX there. That every day after you drink your coffee, you look at OnX. I mean, that's a great way to start your day for everyone out there listening. No, I think about that all the time, man. Like, I think one of the cool things about being a hunter is like a lot of people can go climb a mountain and have a similar experience. And yeah, maybe the weather changes or it's colder one day or warmer the next, but like it's pretty much the same. Everyone's going to go up that trail and come back down. And with hunting, every pursuit ends up being unique. Like the animal is always doing something different. It's always happening in a different location. Like it's very rare to have the exact same scenario happen twice. And so you have these moments that you're like, no one's ever seen that happen before. Right now I'm listening to a ton of turkey podcasts trying to figure out like, where the hell are these Miriams, right? And all the shit they're talking about on this podcast is not coming to fruition in Northern Colorado right now.
Right.
And it's just like, there's always a new variable when you're out in the woods. Like there's something that makes it unique. And even if someone stood there before, like you standing there in that moment, watching that animal do that thing is the first time that that's happened right there. And that is something that's, I think, worth harnessing and worth paying attention to. You talk about being present. Like when you're hunting, man, it draws you in, it forces you to be present. And to me, that's one of the main reasons I enjoy hunting. Like I have to be so present and out when I'm out there, not only for my own safety, but understanding where the animals are, understanding where they're going to go, understanding what the weather's going to do and how that's going to affect what I'm chasing. Like you have to be so dialed in to your present situation that it makes you really feel something that you don't feel just at home, drinking your coffee, going to work. Like it's just different. Like it's out of your comfort zone and it's exhilarating. When I come back from a hunt, even if it's just like last night, I went for 3 hours after work. Like I came back, skipped dinner. It's like 9:00. I got to the house. It was dark. And I was like, I feel amazing. Like I felt great. And that's not a way I would have felt if I would have just sat on the couch and watched TV or if I would have gone to the gym. Like none of that stuff pushes you to feel the way that you feel when you're out chasing an animal or walking up a hill, breathing that fresh air. Like, man, it forces you to be present. And it's a powerful experience. And the people that don't do it, like I feel bad for them. Like I feel bad for the people that live in big cities that don't have the opportunity to get out and do this kind of stuff every day. Because to me, it's like the reason I'm alive is just to be able to go do this shit.
Right. Dude, I agree. Living in the city, it's not for me anymore. It is like if I'm not in county limits, right? Like, baby, let me tell you, it's the best.
And there's ways you can sneak out if you live in a city. But man, when you can just get out in nature and not hear other people, not hear cars, not see lights, and just like feel that power of being in this open space, it's pretty amazing. Like,
Living in a place where when the lights go off, it's actually dark outside.
yeah, I remember growing up, like we could see the city from the cornfields at night, right? Like Chicago was just like bright
Right.
over to the east. And like on clear days, you could see the Sears Tower. And like, it was like, man, I didn't even know. Like when you come out here to the West, yeah, like even in my little town, there's 170,000 people in my town. But when it's nighttime and you're 5 minutes out of town in the mountains, like you can see the stars. And it's pretty amazing the difference between that and like living in a real big city.
Totally. All right, so let's take me back to Africa right here for a second, because
Yeah.
first off, sorry to hear about your father.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's I'm sure there's a phoenix story in this, right? Where just rising from the
Yeah.
ashes
For sure.
and all that. There's Africa hunting has such a negative connotation for people who do not understand it. And then also for you to like really get into hunting by going to Africa, like come on. That's
Yeah.
not something that most people get to experience.
So yeah, so first off, yeah, my dad struggled with cancer for a long time. So all through high school, I kind of knew it was coming. And my freshman year of college, he passed away, and it was it was like a pivotal moment in my life. But I would say it made me who I became and who I am today. Like without that, I don't know that if I would have taken all the chances I would have taken. I don't know if I would have stayed in Colorado. I maybe would have gone back to Illinois after college because he was there. But yeah, so my buddy's dad. So this was my buddy who his dad owned like a big ranch farm up in Wisconsin, and we would every now and again shoot a whitetail, and like they were big hunters, but I didn't hunt. And when my dad passed away, his dad took me under his wing and was like, I'm going to take care of you. We go and do this 10-day Africa trip every year over the Christmas holiday. Do you want to come? And I'm like, well, I don't have any money, like I can't afford it. And he's like, it's all covered. I'm like, well, I don't hunt. I don't have a gun. He's like, I got you a gun. Like this guy is the most generous person I've known. Like he's truly become, I call him dad number two. And like when I talk to him, he actually lives down in Dallas. And when I talk to him, it's just so empowering because he like went out of his way to really make me feel like I still had a dad. And so I got to go 3 times, all my sophomore, junior, and senior year of college. And you know, I had never been to Africa at that point, and to me, it was just like the coolest experience in the world. Like we're gonna go see elephants and giraffes, and like to me, I was just thinking about it as a safari thing. Like I'm really big into photography as well, and so I was really just going to take pictures. I didn't really care if I was hunting, but we showed up, and the guy gave me a gun. He's like, "This is your gun. We're gonna go sight them in, and then like I got you the package or whatever." And it's I would definitely not equate it to like hunting out on public land in the West. Like it's very canned. You're on a private ranch. These are high fence ranches, but they're like 500 hectares or 1,000 hectares. I mean, they're huge. Like you never see the fences. And so it's a really cool experience because you like feel like you're seeing these animals in their natural environment. But ultimately, the negative connotation African hunting gets, I think, comes from like, oh, you're killing these like endangered species. That's really not how it is. Like these ranches, would the way I tell people so that Americans can understand it, it's like if you came from Africa or Europe and flew to Texas and we're like, look at these giant cattle with their huge 6 foot wide horns. Oh my God, can I shoot one and can we eat the meat and bring the head home? Like it's livestock over there. Like the ranchers know how many zebras they have and how many springbuck and kudu. Like they know exactly to the number and they manage them and they let you take the ones that they need to so they can keep the herd healthy, but it's ultimately like wildlife. Like you pick out of a book which ones you want, and it doesn't sound that exciting. But man, when you're actually in the jeeps driving around looking at animals, it is kick ass because it's like real high opportunity. Like you see like 1,000 animals a day, and that's the coolest part. Like, and then you get out of the jeeps and you stalk and whatnot. It's fairly easy hunting. I won't lie there, but it's really exciting, and you get to see a shitload of animals. And so for me, that was really fun. I took a lot of awesome pictures. We got to see everything: lions, leopards, rhinos. Like it was a really cool experience. Now that was almost 20 years ago, and I don't know if I'd go back to have the same kind of hunt that we did in Africa. I'd like to go back and do more of a DIY thing, but it was a really cool experience. I got to bond with my best friend. I got to bond with his dad. It's a bond that I'll have for the rest of my life. And it really got me into harvesting animals and eating this game. And when after those couple of years in Africa, it really drove me to want to pursue hunting here in Colorado and learn the techniques and learn how to be a hunter on my own on public land as a DIY backcountry hunter. And so it was like a tipping point, and it was a cool experience. And I think without that experience, I don't know if I'd be a hunter today, to be honest. So I really am grateful that my buddy's dad was well off enough to be able to afford to take me and was willing and generous enough to take me because it really turned my life towards this sport and this passion that I identify with.
Yeah, I like that you just said sport.
Well, I mean, I guess, yeah, it's a sport. I mean, it's something that I train for. Like right now, I'm at the gym every day, 5:30 in the morning, training to be ready for the fall. Like I look at it like I have to be an athlete to be able to do this stuff out in the West, like climb mountains to chase elk and chase sheep and chase goats. Like I view myself as a mountain athlete and I've got to train for it. So in that aspect, I look at it as a sport, but more so it's a lifestyle. Like I harvest my own meat. I don't buy meat at the grocery store. Like I'm out turkey hunting, I'm out waterfowl hunting, I'm chasing big game, I'm chasing small game. Like I might buy some chicken every now and again from the grocery store, some bacon, but like all of our meat comes from harvesting it ourselves. And that's pretty awesome to be able to say. Like I feel really proud that that's how I get my food. And I don't think non-hunters realize that is such a big thing for hunters. That it's not just killing these animals to put them on your wall or take their horns. Like the meat is like a huge thing. Like if I couldn't eat what I killed, I don't know if I'd still be super motivated to hunt. Like I might be out there chasing animals around, but I don't know if I'd be harvesting them if I couldn't eat the meat.
Right, right. Well, see, you're going to have to come down to Texas. We'll get you some bacon. We'll go shoot some hogs.
That's one thing I have not done yet. I've not done a hog hunt, so it's on my list for sure.
Let me tell you, it's a hoot. And time goes by. It's so fast. It'll be morning before you realize it. And you're like, holy smokes, I was just up all night long chasing animals with the thermals. And like,
Hell yeah.
it's a hoot. Absolute hoot.
I want to add one thing to this Africa thing for people that are listening. If you're a hunter and you think the Africa thing's like kind of a scam or a sham or whatever, like you should go experience it. Like it's really pretty eye-opening and amazing just to go on one of those trips and see that country and see what the people in that country are living through and go out to these big ranches and see how they manage game. Like it's a pretty eye-opening experience. From those trips, I had never really traveled much before then. Now I've traveled all over the world. Like it really opened my eyes to wanting to see the world, not just hunt. But yeah, I mean, if you're on the fence, do it. Go to South Africa, go to Zimbabwe, like go on one of those hunts. It's really cool. Uh, you may not have to do it twice, but like it's something to do at least once.
Yes. Yeah. Give it a shot. Why not?
Yeah, give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Um, how did you end up working at Onyx? What's your story? What's your role there?
Yeah, so I'm a product manager and a marketing manager on the hunt team. I basically am in charge of right now our draw odds product, which is Top Rut. So if you guys we're in application season right now. All the Western states are. It's time to put your applications in. So we've got a tool that lets you see what your draw odds are for all your species and all the different units. So I manage that whole program, and we're building on that. We're building tools for people that aren't in the field. Like tools that are beyond the map. Really, Onyx is this awesome tool for when you're in the field and when you're doing some scouting and pre-scouting. But there's half of the year where you're not in the field chasing animals, and so I'm in charge of the program that is building tools for that other off-season part of the year to keep you involved in hunt, keep you thinking about what you're pursuing, and really help you get dialed before you ever step foot out in the field.
Perfect. Let's talk about top rat here because I have some Wyoming mule deer and antelope points, and
Yeah.
I want to go smack an antelope sooner than later. I think I'm sitting on like 3 points, maybe 4 points, which isn't a lot, but doable, at least from what I've heard. So I've been really interested on the whole. If you have an elite membership through Onyx, you get free access to Top Rut. What else do you get free access to?
Yeah, so if you're elite member, you get Top Rut. Again, that's our draw odds tool. You get access to Hunt and Fool, their e-magazine, and their online portal. So they've got a ton of hunt research. They do reviews on units. They pick out units that are going to be really good. They kind of have like an overall research base for information that you need to know before you apply. And then you can also upgrade with Hunt and Fool, and they do hunt consultations. They'll help you apply. They'll help you find the right unit for the type of hunt you want to do. So that's one of the things you get. And then you get a free membership to Hunt Reminder as well, which is a place that you can go and you can pick like different states and species that you want to potentially apply for in the future. And it's super simple to set up, and it'll send you reminders, email and text message reminders, so you don't miss those deadlines. The hardest part of applying to a hunt is just making sure you don't miss the deadline. I've got a bunch of buddies in my hunt group that every year they miss the deadline, and so we hunt a lot over the counter stuff because they just like blow it and never make the draw.
Dude, Two Shot Tony, you met Tony down in
Yeah.
Utah. He always forgets, man. I'm like, dude, put it in your calendar. This is the day that you have to have it in and all that. He's that guy in our group. So I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm on toprut.com. I really like the fact that you don't have to have a separate login for TopRut because you can log in with your Onyx membership. And so I clicked Wyoming. I clicked Antelope. I'm non-residency person. Talk to me a little bit about how I'm using this right here.
Yeah. So the main point for Top Rut is to understand. So first off, I want to say this. This is something that a lot of people get confused on. All the data in Top Rut is based off of last year's draw. So we get the actual draw data from the states from 2022 currently. And then we run a bunch of simulations. We make sure that we are understanding what actually happened in those draws so we can replicate who got tags and who didn't. We can't obviously have this is not a predictive tool. So it's not telling you what your draw odds are for 2023 because we don't know that. We don't have the data from the states yet. So this is telling you what happened in 2022, and you can take that information and make your best guess on what is different or not for your unit. And so that's really important because some units, like if you're watching the news, like some units out here have had bad winter kill. So state agencies are going to drop quotas, which means draws are going to be reduced, or there's more hunters applying to that hunt this year. So again, draws may be reduced. This is a big problem, but This is the best way that you can get the most accurate view into what is happening in the draw, is actually looking at real draw odds from the previous draw. So the one thing that you're looking at when you're in Top Rut is the main thing is obviously what tags can I actually get. So it's going to tell you your percentage of draw. So like right now I'm looking at unit 60 in Wyoming antelope, and that's got an 89% draw at 16 points.
Whew,
That means
it's a lot of
16.
points.
Yeah, that's a lot of points. So what that means is last year, if you had 16 points, you had an 89% chance of drawing. If you had 17 points, 100% of people with 17 points or more drew, and 0 people with 15 points or less drew. So 16 points was like the break even point of where you started seeing people actually getting tags. And so the easiest way with you with 3 or 4 points is if you sort that column, like you can sort it to see where you'd fit in with like 3 or 4 points. So like I would go and say 3 or 4 points, unit 38 has got a 100% chance with 3.5 points. So that means with your 3 or 4 points, you should be able to draw that tag, no problem.
And the higher the points are typically the better the hunt, correct?
Yeah, typically. I mean, there's a few ways to look at that. So it could be the better the hunt. It could be a unit that has a really low quota. So it may not technically be a better hunt. It just may be a more competitive hunt. More people want to hunt there. But yeah, ultimately, the easiest way to look at that is say the more points it takes means the higher quality of a hunt, means less hunters and less hunters out in the field means less pressure for the animals.
Okay, because when we filter that, there's actually unit 10 in Wyoming for antelope. It says 100% draw at 0 points. Now that was last year, so that might have been like a brand new opening unit or something like that, where the abundance flows, the salmon flow like the women flock like the salmon of Capistrano. Okay, so do I automatically want to only look at units that are going to have my points as a potential draw, or this is where the newbie in me doesn't really understand all the way?
Well, here's the thing. If you have 3 or 4 points and you put in for a unit that requires 0 points, you're most likely wasting your points. But it depends on your strategy. If you just want to hunt this year and that's all that matters to you, yeah, this unit 10 at 0 points, you'll probably get that tag. But it requires a little more research than that. Like what you can do is you can click on where it says unit 10. You can click into that and that'll actually open the unit page. And this will give you an idea of where this unit is. It'll give you an idea of harvest statistics. It'll give you an idea of how many hunters applied versus how many hunters got the tag. Obviously, if at 0 points, 100% of people got the tag, that means there were more tags than hunters applied. So maybe that unit's not that desirable. Maybe the access issue is really hard. So this is another thing that you want to really pay attention to when you're applying. Like when I've got 3 screens right now. I've got like the command station. I look like a gamer, but I've got my Top Rut up, and then I've usually got my OnX up, and I'm looking. Okay, I want to see Wyoming unit 10 for antelope, and I want to see is the reason why it's a 100% draw unit. Is there no access to public land? Is the access really challenging? Is it in the mountains and not in the plains? Meaning, like maybe there's just not a lot of antelope there. So there's a lot of things that I like to do in my draw research, other than just look at draw. I want to look. Is it in drought? Was there a forest fire in the last 5 years in that unit? What's happening in that unit that's maybe driving this trend in the draw odds? So there's a lot of information I'm trying to gather before I say, okay, unit 10 is the one I want, just because it says I've got 100% draw odds.
So I'm in unit 10 right now. It says private land 89%.
Yeah, so that's a tough unit. Like there's only 11% public land. And of that public land, when you go into the map, I'm not looking at the map right now, but it might be landlocked. It might not have access. Like that's a challenge. Now, you could always go knock on doors. I'm terrible at gaining permission. Like I hunt public land. Like I'm terrible at going and knocking on doors and getting permission to hunt private land. But that might be a unit you got to make some phone calls and you got to get some access. So again, that's something that you need to understand. Like before you put in for that draw, because you're going to get that tag, there might not be land for you to be able to hunt.
So let's click on unit 60. It's 89% at 16 points. It is 26% private land.
Yeah, so a ton of public land. It's probably out in the plains. I'm not super familiar with that unit specifically in Wyoming, but that unit probably has got a lot of public land out in the plains and a ton of antelope.
Yep.
Makes it a high opportunity unit, which is why it has 16, 17 points to get that tag.
Okay. So ultimately, does it? I'm trying to look. Is there like a success percentage that it shows on here?
There's a harvest success, yeah. So you can, if you're not seeing it, you can go up to the little button that says display in the upper right hand corner, and make sure all your columns are turned on. But there is a harvest success uh, column, and so like that unit number 89, or sorry, unit 60 has an 83% success rate, which on antelope is pretty good. I mean, they're hard to get close to. 83% that get that tag out. So again, that's something that's important to look at too. Is you want to look at the unit itself. You want to look at the access you have. You want to look at the terrain. Like, are you physically fit enough to go do that? Like an antelope hunt, most likely is on the plains. But like, let's say you're looking at elk hunts. Can you go into the Tetons, or do you need something that's a little more mellow? So in top right, you can see the farthest left column is terrain analysis, and that's kind of like your ski hill basis, like green circle, blue square, black diamond.
Right.
And an idea of like how steep the terrain is. So you want to look at the terrain. You want to look at your draw. You want to look at the harvest success. You want to look at like how many hunters may potentially be in that unit. Like, is it a really crowded unit? Like, it's hard in Wyoming. We don't have some of this data. Every state gives us different data. If you switched over to Colorado, you can actually see how many hunters applied and how many hunters got those tags. And so some units you might see like there was 1,000 hunters in this unit for elk for, let's say, third season rifle. And then you look at the deer statistic. There's another 1,000 hunters in that unit for deer. Like, there's 2,000 hunters in that unit. Like, there's going to be a ton of pressure. Versus like the next door unit might only have given away 17 tags. And there's only 17 hunters in that unit. Like, that unit to me is much more interesting with 17 people in it than the unit with 2,000 people in it.
Right. Did you
So
know?
all this information goes into building your strategy before you ever push the apply button on your application.
This is so fascinating. I love the harvest success rates because number one, I don't I don't know where you can go and find harvest success rates at like 94%.
Well, you are looking at antelope. I mean, in the end, even though you may have to take a 600-yard shot, like the cool thing about antelope hunting on the plains, especially in Wyoming, like you're going to see hundreds of antelope a day, most likely. Like you're going to see a lot of antelope. It's high opportunity. Whereas if you change this, if you go over to your quick nav on the left and you change it to like Wyoming elk, you'll have harvest statistics in there, and like obviously some of these
10%, 5%.
25%. These are for rifle. Like this is for non-resident regular rifle. Like if I go into archery, like now you're dropping to 0%, 4%, 22%, 12%. Like, so it's pretty cool to know like that unit, you might be able to get that tag, but like it's a real challenging unit to pull an animal out of.
Yeah, dude, I see that. I think, tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if this is a bad idea. But I like looking at the harvest success rates and the percentage of drawing based off my points. And then obviously I need to know when the hunt starts and what weapon I can use. But like those are the two that I'm more drawn towards. What is that how you would look at it typically?
Yeah, I mean, I would look at it as what hunt do I want to go on first?
Mhm.
Like, do I want a mountain hunt? Do I want a plains hunt? Like for me, this year I think I've got 8 points for antelope in Colorado. And do I want to do like a hunt up in North Park, the best unit 6, one of the best units, or do I want to be out on the Eastern Plains where like public access is a real challenge, and I'm gonna have to go knock on doors and really find places to hunt. But that's one thing I'm really looking at is like I really want to study the terrain more than the draw odds, and I want to understand what kind of hunt I want to have. Then once I figure that out, then yeah, obviously I want to maximize my points. So like I don't want to, if I have 8 points, I don't want to apply for a 3 point unit because that burns 5 of my points. I'm going to get that hunt and burn my points. So I want to look at the hunts that are closest to my point, the points I have, and understand like which of those is the highest quality hunt that I can go on. And so like what I was looking at this year for Colorado was like, do I want to do a unit 8 hunt in Colorado that's right along the Wyoming border, but in the mountains? But the mountains kind of taper off into the Wyoming plains, and that I could do with 7 points and get that, or and that's a rifle hunt, or I could wait one more year and have 8 or 9 points and go to a muzzleloader hunt in Unit 6. And Unit 6 takes like 25 points for rifle. It's like one of the best units for antelope hunting. And so I thought, I'm actually going to skip burning my points on this rifle hunt, and I'm going to go next year and do a muzzleloader hunt. So that's what kind of convinced me, like, what kind of hunt do I want to have? I want to go to the best unit I can hunt with my points, with a method of take that I'm comfortable with. And as long as the dates line up, like, that's what I'm going to apply for. Harvest rate, I'm not as concerned with harvest rate personally. Like, yeah, I love to see it, but to me, it's somewhat of a vanity metric because, yeah, like 17% might be in a unit that's really hard as far as terrain goes. I'm pretty fit though, so I feel like I might have a leg up on these guys that come from the east. Like, you don't know what created that low harvest rate. Was it guys that came out and didn't have training in the altitude that just couldn't chase the elk or the antelope or whatever? People didn't have private land access. Like, are these high units, these units that have 80, 90% harvest rates, are they 90% private land and you've got to get access? And so all the people that had tags had private land access. So they don't tell the full story. So you really got to look into, why are people harvesting there? Is it a green unit and everyone can just drive around on county roads and find the animals? Or is it a double black unit that you got to climb 5,000 vertical feet a day to chase elk around? So, I mean, I do like a unit that says it's got high success, that tells me that there's animals in that unit, but it doesn't tell me the whole story.
Interesting. I like it. Good stuff.
Really, and realistically, one of the most important things is the dates. Like, nowadays, like, we have to build our hunting schedules around dates that work for us. So that's another thing that I look at. Like, if you actually go to the filter is one of the best ways to use Top Rut. So up at the top, there's a button for filter, and you can actually filter out your hunt start dates to let you only see hunts that work for your date. So, like, if you can only hunt September 10th to 20th, look at those dates and then get rid of all the other hunt codes that might draw your interest. If you know you can't come in the middle of November because you got to do a big family Thanksgiving somewhere, like, well, don't look at those hunt codes. So that's something that's really powerful to use. Is, like, to me, I'm more opportunistic than that. Like, but it still matters. Like, if I've got work stuff and I know I can't hunt because I got to go on a work trip, like, I don't want to apply for hunts that I can get the tag and then I've got to try to get a refund and don't use my points. But that's the list. So,
dude, that's huge. Okay, so first off, I just want to say thank you for sharing all this information. I've had Dylan on the podcast multiple times. Of like, dude, talk to me about Top Rut. And he's like, bro, let me get you somebody who can talk about Top Rut. Because when you're paying $100 yearly subscription to OnX as an elite member, everyone, especially with inflation in this world, we want to get the most bang for a buck.
totally.
OnX, the mapping software by itself, is 100% a game changer. It revolutionized hunting for me. It allowed me to figure out how to hunt. But now that I've gone to that next step, right, I've reached outside my own state boundaries and been like, oh, okay, now I know how to hunt here. What else is out there? I actually just hunted technically out of my own home state for the very first time last year. Went to Idaho for spring bear. And I was like, okay, here we go. I'm about to e-scout something that I will not be able to lay feet on until I'm there in person. And so going through that process and trying to figure out, what units for bears and where do I want to go? And so having these tools really helps. Do you feel like, there's a lot of naysayers out there that say programs like these are actually killing hunting?
I don't know if I can swear on this podcast. I think I already have a few times, but fuck no. Like, I think I'm the same way, man. Like, I was an early adopter on OnX. Like, I had the chip way back in the day, and when it came out on the phone, like, it was just game changer. Like, it allowed me, granted, I live in a state that has a lot of public land and a lot of land that's like out there. Like, it allowed me to go places that I wasn't comfortable going. And I hated the experience with the GPS. Like, it just sucked. Like, it was like waypoints and as the crow flies, and that's it. Like, that's all you got. You didn't get a lot of information. OnX just allowed me to go further, man. Like, it's the same. Like, it honestly allowed me to say, like, I can go 10 miles from the truck because I know I'm going to make it back. Top Rut is the next evolution of that. Like, you need a map in the woods, but you need to know how to get tags. before you ever get to that point where you're parking your truck on some trailhead. Like, you got to have a strategy. I think it's almost naive or it's silly at this point to apply without having a strategy. And I did it for years. I did it for 20 years, not having a strategy, just thinking I'm going to go hunt the same unit 4, Colorado, every year. This was the first year, and this was year 17 in unit 4. Killed an elk every single year for the last 16 years. This was the first year I didn't get an elk in 16 years. I'm like, I'm just going to do that every year. It's easy, brainless. But a few years ago, I started thinking, I want to be a better hunter. I want to start looking at different species. I want to go bear hunting. I want to get into Miriams. I want to get out of state. And you got to have an application strategy to do that. Like, with point creep and tag quotas going down and hunter application numbers going up, like, you got to have a strategy. So it's ignorant not to. So I think it's important that you at least understand the data. Top Rut's very data heavy. It's really suited for the person who likes to look at data and kind of make up a plan and find an edge that they might have on the other hunters or their buddies. And that's what's awesome for me. I love data. So I like filling through this, but it's hard enough just to understand Colorado, my home state or my resident state. Like, I went to Nebraska a couple weeks ago for opener on turkey. Like, I don't know anything about Nebraska, right? And I'm hunting Wyoming this weekend for turkey. Like, becoming a multi-state hunter is a real challenge. Like, you need maps to be able to figure out where you're going. You need to understand the draw process. You got to understand how to apply. Like, every state has a different system. So all these tools that we have here at onX help you to become a multi-state hunter. And the reason why that's important is, I think personally, in 10 years, you're not going to be guaranteed the ability to hunt in your resident state every single year. Like, right now, every single year, I can go buy an over-the-counter bull tag in Colorado. I don't have to apply for anything. In 10 years, that might not be the case. Most states don't have over-the-counter elk tags. Like, we lost over-the-counter deer tags a long time ago. So you have to apply for them. And if you don't know what you're applying for, if you don't know your odds, you might not get those tags. And so I think it's important to, A, understand your draw odds and understand what you're applying for, but B, have a multi-state plan, because just because you might not get an elk tag in your home state doesn't mean you can't go hunting deer in South Dakota or black bear in Idaho. Like, if you want to hunt, spread it out. Like, there's opportunities all over the place. They might not just be in your state in 10 years. And so I think it's super crucial that we start using these tools. We start learning more about the draw. And no, I don't think that these tools have bastardized the experience of hunting. I mean, I think what they have done is yes, they've allowed more people to have access to places that maybe hunters thought were their little private honey hole. But ultimately, like, that just makes all of us have to become better hunters, like, find new honey holes. Like, I'm really trying this year. I'm going to the Wemanuchi unit 75. That's what I applied for. I should be able to get that tag in Colorado, and we're going to rent llamas, and we're going to go in. It's a wilderness area. We're going to go 30 miles in. We're going to have 4 llamas. Like, I've never done this before in my life. Like, I want new experiences, man. Like we talked about at the beginning of the pod, like, I want to go do new shit and have that new experience. So I think that's what's cool. I think, get out of your comfort zone, go hunt the next unit over. Don't just hunt the unit you've hunted for 20 years. Like, go learn something about a different herd of animals, a different species, a different state. I think that's really cool. Like, my turkey hunt in Nebraska was amazing. I always thought driving from Chicago to Colorado through Nebraska is just flat cornfields. But where I got was like these beautiful rolling hills, these rocky bluffs. And I got into Tom's Friday night before season open, and I had a great hunt opening morning, ended up harvesting later in the afternoon. And it was one of the best turkey experiences I've ever had. And it was the first time I ever stepped foot in Nebraska to hunt. And it was great. And I couldn't have done it without these tools.
Dude, that's awesome. Was this an onX thing, or is this you just randomly
No,
saying,
it was just me. I was up solo up there by myself, just wanted to go, and put in for a tag this year and got it. And in Nebraska, you can get 2 not over the counter, you got to draw them, but you can get 2 tags for turkeys as a non-resident. And it was killer, man. In a state like Colorado, where it's hard to find these mountain turkeys, it was awesome to go hunt big woods, cottonwoods, river flats, and like see some of these hybrid turkeys in not a mountain arena where I feel like I'm always 10 steps behind. So it was really fun. It was cool. And I'm looking forward to doing it more. Like, this weekend, I'm going to Wyoming. I'd like to go up to Montana next year and do a spring bear hunt. We don't have a spring bear season in Colorado anymore. So, like,
Well,
there's all these hunts that I want to do, but you got to spread out, man. Like you can't just hunt the same thing over and over. So I think that's the big plug for these tools.
I love that. Okay, so next year, Soul Seekers is hunting spring bear with Dylan in Montana. We got to get
Yes,
you in on that.
I'm in. I'm in. I wanted to go this year, but it's been so snowy up there. It's going to be a shorter season. I'm busy too down here with turkeys and other stuff. And but next year, like I'm 100% dedicated to getting up there and doing a bear hunt.
I love it. I love it. What else do we need to know about Onyx Elite memberships? Like Top Rut, this is helpful. I didn't.
Honestly, Top Rut, you guys got to get into Top Rut, play around with the data for your state. Even if you don't know what you're looking at, just play around with it and see what unit, even if your draw is passed, see what your odds are, see what happened, see what the data shows you, and it'll just help you start learning how the draw system works. Hunt and Fool, honestly, they're like the experts. They're the guys that are putting, 100 days a year out in the field. Like they really know their shit. Use their resources, use their tools, use their EMAG, call those guys, talk to them about hunts, outfitters, whatever you need. The other cool thing about Elite is you get a ton of benefits. So on top of the other like software tools that you get for free, you get like discounts on a bunch of stuff. So you get discounts on a bunch of gear. You get discounts on like Elk Collective, the Hunting Public. You get discounts on dog training stuff. If you're a waterfowler and you've got dogs, you get discounts on. I know there's some First Light discounts in there and some Mossy Oak discounts, and like there's discounts on like 20 or 30 different industry companies, retails, and that's awesome. That's a huge benefit. Like who wants to pay full price for anything? So that's a huge benefit of your yearly membership. With Elite, you also get all 50 states. So a lot of people don't hunt multi-states, but what I was just talking about, it's important. Get out there and try a new state. And with your Elite membership, you get all the mapping app, all the layers, everything, private public land data for all 50 states. We just added Canada this year. So if you're thinking of going to Canada, that's another thing you get with Elite. So there's a ton of benefits to Elite that people don't realize. And it's super crucial to me. I was the same way. 10 years ago, or 5 years ago, I was a premium user. I thought I only need to hunt Colorado. But then I started backpacking in Utah and doing some desert trips, and I'm hunting in Wyoming now. I'm hunting in Nebraska. I really need to be able to access all those tools for multiple states. So get Elite. It's a plug, but it's worth the $99 a year. I mean, like it's the one tool that I honestly use it every single day. Like you were saying this early on, like you drink your coffee and look at Onyx. I literally look at Onyx every day. Like today, I was looking at Onyx for some access to some turkey land. And I called the CPW agent. I called the U.S. Forest Service. I was trying to figure out this Forest Service easement. Like, I'm just curious. I like looking at maps. I've got a map on my wall behind me, but like, it's something that just engages my brain of like, where can I go hunt? And here's an area I haven't been yet, and I'm going to go check it out. And then that's now an adventure that's on my list of things to do this weekend. Like, let's go check that little zone out. I haven't been up there in 10 years or ever. So
I love that.
I think there's a lot of benefits to Elite other than just the mapping app.
Totally. Well, you know what I love? The new feature is Apple CarPlay, Android CarPlay.
Oh yeah.
Like having it show up on your car's screen. My kids sit in the backseat of my truck and they're like, "Dad, move your water bottle, move your coffee cup, move like I want to see the map." And so we're just driving and showing all the boundaries and landowner information. I'm like, this is great.
CarPlay, in-dash is super cool. I mean, it's on CarPlay right now. It's coming out on Android Auto here shortly, and that's super cool. I mean, like I've got a 2018 Tundra. It doesn't have it, unfortunately. So I still have like my phone sitting on my dashboard, and like every time I go over a bump, it falls over, and it sucks. Like, all I want is to have in-dash. So I might have to upgrade my whatever it is, the screen in my. I don't even know what I need. But, I want it. I want it for sure. And what's cool too is you can like do directions to a waypoint. So like you can have a waypoint like off on a Forest Service road, and you can do directions to it where a lot of times like Google or Waze might fail and not get you to that waypoint. Like there's some opportunity there to get to these waypoints through your navigation in your dash that that just helps you get to camp or get to wherever you're going. So that's a pretty cool feature. Just came out. Kick ass.
That's sweet. I'm gonna have to check that out. I got on my drive home from work every day. There's a ranch that has some turkeys on it, and so I put a turkey waypoint on there, and every time, the waypoints show up also, and so you're driving, and all of a sudden my
Yeah.
kids are like, "Oh, what was that?" And I'm like, "What are you looking at?" And they're like, "On the screen."
That's what's cool about InDash. It's not just a map like Google. It's not just a replacement for your Google map. Like it's got all your markups. It's got your waypoints, your tracks. It's got all that stuff in there. So as you're driving around, like you can see the stuff that you've marked that you want to check out.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's shift gears real quick as we're gonna wrap up this podcast with you talking about um, what you said earlier. You like to just go on adventures. It's like, oh, you add it to a list.
Yeah.
You are the creator, owner, founder. What
All
are
of the above. Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
all the above of what's called type3life.com. What is it? Tell the listeners about it because this is one of the coolest things I've ever heard.
Yeah. So Type 3 Life. Um, it's my side project. It's something I do out of passion. This is technically our third year, but our second year running trips. But we run trips for men. We're a men's organization. We're agnostic. We don't have any like religious affiliation. We just run badass adventure trips for dudes who want to go out and do stuff with guys. So this all came from my experience at the National Outdoor Leadership School. It came from my experience at No Barriers. I got to see veterans come back and really find purpose by going on adventure. I got to see kids with disabilities have aha moments by going on adventure. I got to see college kids learn leadership skills by going on adventure. Like, I really truly believe that there's this transformational opportunity by going out on adventure. And I think men are struggling. I think men are a demographic that is struggling that doesn't have programming. Like there's a ton of programming like this for again vets, kids with disabilities, people with diagnoses of like terminal illnesses, people that have had traumatic experiences, but there's no products for just like the regular dude who's kind of lost touch with his community. Like as we get older, we graduate college, we get married, we have kids, whatever, we get into our career, we start to kind of lose touch with our buddies. And that's something that's really big into your mental health is having this outlet to be able to go be a guy with the guys. Uh, and you can't really satiate it going to the bar and getting a beer and watching the football game. Like you need to go do hard stuff with your buddies. I've seen it happen. I've had it happen to me personally. Like you just got to go have these experiences. And so I started a company to help men get out and explore the wilderness. Like you might not be able to get 8 dudes to go to Alaska, but you can sign up and come with us and we'll get 8 dudes to go to Alaska and we'll do a 5 or 10-day Alaska backpacking trip or want to do a hut-to-hut mountain biking trip. Or last year we did a desert backpacking trip where we were lost out in the middle of nowhere in Capitol Reef National Park, like way off grid. And these trips are meant to be really challenging, to push guys to get out of their comfort zone, feel a little vulnerable. I know guys hate that word, but like feel that angst inside of them and let that out and feel comfortable letting that out to your community of other guys. Let them know that you struggled today because that hike was hard and talk about why that was hard. And that usually turns into us talking about like shit that at home that's hard, like our job or our kids or our wives or our finances or whatever. And it really helps guys bond and feel this sense of community. And my thesis is like all the shit that guys struggle with, whether it's like depression or anxiety or like, unfortunately, like dudes that look just like you and me, like 30 to 50-year-old guys are the number one demographic for suicide right
Mhm.
now. That's terrifying. So, like, my thesis is that just by joining a community can help all those other issues that tend to start popping up in your 30s and 40s and 50s. And so our saying is challenge, community, confidence. So through challenge, you'll build community, and through community, you build confidence. And being a confident man really helps you show up in life. It helps you be present. It helps you show up for your kids and your wife and your job and everything. And it really just is an empowering experience. Like for the most part, these are just adventure trips, but there's a light facilitation we do. Maybe 5 to 10% of these trips are facilitated, where we've got activities to try to get guys to open up and talk about the shit that's bothering them. And by the end of these trips, it's pretty impactful to see how these guys have transformed. And it drives me every single day to keep doing this stuff, to get out in the wild, find new places to take guys. You know, in my personal life, I plan personal trips with buddies. We do mountain biking, evening rides. We do all sorts of stuff, and those are the best times of the year to just like disconnect and be with the guys and laugh, have a beer or two, sit around a campfire, and go do hard shit. And hunting's one of them. I mean, my hunting group is my two brother-in-laws. Neither of them were hunters before they married my sisters. They're adult onset. One of my best buddies, who's my partner and co-founder at Type 3 Life, he was a Marine, came back, went through a nasty divorce, uh, and like he was struggling. He went on these hunting trips and these motorcycle trips we do, and he's like thriving now, man. And like another buddy of mine, like comes hunting with us, goes mountain biking with us. Like having this group of guys has really helped us be better men. And so that's what life is all about. It's about getting outside, having fun, and being the best version of yourself.
Amen to that. Are
You got to come, man. You got to come on a trip. They're really impactful. This year we're doing a 6-day backpacking trip in Alaska, Wrangell St. Elias National Park. We're going to climb some mountains. We're going to explore a glacier. We're going to cross rivers. We've got a 4-day hut to hut mountain biking trip where we're going to stay in huts and have a SAG vehicle drive all our gear from hut to hut. Like every year we've got some off grid cool adventure that isn't easy to plan on your own. We're going to put it all together, and you just show up, and everything is ready to go.
That's awesome. My brother, he hosts 2 different podcasts. One is currently not active. He hasn't released active episodes within it for quite some time. However, that podcast is called The Vulnerable Hero.
Yeah, it's totally. I mean, dude, the work we did at No Barriers was so pivotal to me wanting to start this, to seeing these tough military guys and girls come back from Iraq and Afghanistan, and their life's turned upside down, and they go on like a Grand Canyon rafting trip, and their life turns around. Like it was really pivotal. It was really impactful. So, doing this for like the everyday dude that just needs like an outlet, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. And honestly, it's soul seekers, man. For me, this is what my soul needs. Like I want to help other guys have the experience I've had. I struggled. I'll say it. Like there was 5-6 years ago, I was sitting on a beach in Mexico. My story is I was ready to walk into that water, man, middle of the night, 2 a.m., and never come back. And I thought I was a burden on people. I thought everyone would be better off without me. And I had a buddy show up randomly. My co-founder, believe it or not, showed up on that beach that night. He didn't know where I was, just found me. And he lent a hand, man. And it turned it all around for me. And this is my same buddy who needed a hand when he was going through his divorce. So we all go through it. There's moments of highs and moments of lows. There's going to be moments of lows in the future. Like you got to rely on the people in your community. And that's what it's all about. If without a community, I mean, going through life alone is a struggle. Going through life with a supportive community is a lot better. It's the easy way to say it.
Yeah. And I will say this. So I just moved 2,000 miles to a brand new state that I never lived in before, and I don't know anyone down here. In my community that I had up in Washington, there's only so much phone calls you can make and FaceTimes you can do when you're on a 2-hour time difference, and you got kids and trying to figure out work. And if it wasn't for hunting, I don't know if I would have as strong of a community that I've created down here in Texas, because it's an instant bond.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you work on computers? Sweet. Like, let's go
Yeah.
talk about our IT work, or,
Totally.
but
How's the weather?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you hunt? Oh, dude, what do you want to go? How do like, and
Totally.
then all of a sudden it's just instant community builder. And so that's a part of what we do here at Soul Seekers is we do community events. We throw events not because, well, I'll just say this, because people need people.
Totally. You need people, man. You can't just have your wife and your kids. Like it can't be it. Like you got to have other people. Your wife can't be everything for you. Like you need other support channels. Like it'll wear down that relationship. I've been there too. Like I think one of the most important things is not only building community, but seeing that other people have gone through struggles. makes it feel like you're not alone in your struggle. Like you always feel like this. I'm the only person that's ever experienced this hardship, like my dad dying, or like I want to, like I'm stressed out. I have anxiety. No, everyone's felt it, but no one talks about it. So the second you can break down those barriers and start talking about it, you can feel like, oh, well, this guy who seems like he's got his shit together is telling me that he is going through the same shit, but he's dealing with it. Like that's encouraging to me that I can deal with it too. And then we go climb a mountain or we go chase an elk and we harvest it. And it's like, fuck, that was really hard. But I did that. So I can probably go home and do this other hard thing, which is like go to work or have the conversation with my wife or tell the kids like, look, these are the rules. Like, like by doing hard shit, we get better at facing hard shit. And so to me, like you got to go have adversity to get better at dealing with adversity. And so put yourself out there, go meet new dudes, go hunting, go climb a mountain, go hunting, go hunt turkeys in the pouring rain and see nothing for a whole day or a whole weekend, like, and get frustrated as hell and come back and realize, okay, what did you learn? You learn that you can deal with it and then you can move forward and you can go out again. And maybe you don't go out in the rain for turkeys the next time because you realize that they're not out there wandering around. I don't know. But you learn, you always learn something. And I think people that don't push themselves to do hard shit don't learn that skill. And it's a crucial skill. So I love that you're doing community events. I think we should do more community events. I mean, I think one of the biggest things if you're in a new place like I've lived in new places. I lived in Wyoming for a while. I've traveled all over. Like, just put yourself out there. It's hard, exhausting. Go meet someone. Go hunting, dude. Hunting to me, the best part of my hunt. Yeah, I want to kill a big bull every year, but I just want to go to hunting camp and hang out with my buddies that I see once a year. And I know at hunting camp, their phones aren't going to work. I pick where hunting camp is so that the phones don't work, so they can't call their wives, they can't check in on work, and they can't check their email. Like I plan that purposely, so when they show up, it's like, dudes, let's just like drink whiskey and build fires and put this tent up and like let's go chase elk and let's be present. So like that's what it's all about, man. Just connecting with other humans.
Yeah. Well, the Field of Dreams mentality, right? If you build it, they will come. That is how we started with the community events. We had this mission of mentorship as conservation, but yet we were all new hunters, and so it's like, well, how do we get connected with other people? Well, we did an event and we put it out on social media, and 13 people showed up from all over the state of Washington because they somehow followed our social media at that point or heard about it. To the point where now OnX is the title sponsor of our community event that we did this last December. They're going to be it again for this coming year because you guys believe in the power of community,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah, I mean, Onyx is all about having those experiences. The ethos behind Onyx is go out there and have that experience. Do it with other people, do it by yourself, but go have the experience. To me, the experience is better with a community. Some people don't agree with that, and that's okay. But to me, like I use this tool to go out and have these experiences with my buddies, with new people. I like to bring new people along that have never done it before. Like I just don't see the point in living this life if you're not going to share it with other people. Like that's what makes this life rich and full is sharing the experiences with the people around you, making friends, building relationships, falling in love, like whatever it is, like just be kind and meet new people. Like it sounds woo-woo, like we're gonna sing Kumbaya here shortly, but like it's really important. And that honestly, that's what you and I hit it off. I'd never met you ever. Day one, we're like having fun, high-fiving, like getting crazy. Like just be willing to meet new people and have a new experience. And I think your life will be more full.
oh, totally. We get so caught off guard by these inner voices in our head, right? We talk to ourselves in our head all the time, all the time. It's just like, should I not? Should I? Oh, I don't know. What is that person thinking? What do they think of me? These voices go in our heads rather than just the spoken word.
Yeah,
Hi, how are you? What's your
totally.
name? And then all of a sudden, you're off to the races. Do you like to read books?
Yeah, I can read. Yep.
There is a book I talked about on this podcast over the years. It's a New York Times bestseller, The Untethered Soul.
Oh, I haven't read it. I haven't read it yet,
Check it
but
out.
it's on my list. I actually do have a list of books in my phone. I read a book. My goal is a book a month. And for voracious readers, that doesn't seem like anything, but I'm busy. So I try to read 12 books a year, book a month. And so it's on my list and I will get to it.
What are some of your favorite books then?
Oh man, a pivotal book when I was a kid, like college age kid, I read Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand, and it like changed my life. Right, it was very philosophical, but I don't know. I read a little bit of everything. My guilty pleasure is like I don't know if you've ever read the Mitch Rapp series
Nope.
by a writer named Vince Flynn. It's like Homeland. If you ever watched the show Homeland,
Yes.
it's like Homeland but in a book. And it's like 25 books series. Like every year he comes out with a book. That's my guilty pleasure. But I like reading nonfiction mostly. Like I like reading about the West. I just read a book about Kit Carson. That was super kick ass. I like reading stuff about history. I like reading about finances and startups and tech. Like I'm super big into all that stuff. So I've always got a book in my hand. And my wife got me a Kindle this year for Christmas. And I was anti Kindle forever because I'm a book guy. It's the best invention ever. I took a turkey hunting with me this year to Nebraska. And while I sat there for 8 hours, I was in my little blind, like tucked against a tree, reading my Kindle. It was awesome, man. So yeah, I read a shitload of books. I'm going to put that one, Tethered Soul.
Dude, you crack me up. I love it. We got a lot to talk about. I want to have you on again.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
want to
totally.
dive into the soul aspect more.
Yeah, I'd love to come back, man. This was great. I know we've gone pretty long, but you're easy to talk to. Again, it's that connection. I think when you find people that are just enthusiastic about life, it's easy to talk to those people. So let's do it.
I love it. I love it. Paulie, type3life.com.
Yeah, type 3 and the number 3. So TYPE, the number 3 LIFE.com. Check it out. We've got a couple of spots open. Again, we do the trips are tiny. Like Alaska this year's 8 people. I think we've already got 3 or 4 signed up. So we've only got a couple spots left. We try to keep it small so that we can like really bond deeply. And then after these trips, we've got like a community program where we try to stay in touch and keep the good feelings going by having beer nights or whatever.
Yeah, keep the camp high going.
Yeah, totally. You got to keep it going.
What does type 3 stand for, by the way?
Yeah, good question. So have you ever heard of the term of like a type 2 fun, type 3 fun? It's like the type of fun that sucks while you're doing it, but in the end, it's pretty like monumental in your life.
Okay.
So type 3 came out of that. So type 2 fun is like type 1 fun is like the fun scale is type 1 fun is like going golfing. Like it's just maybe fun. I'm not a golfer, but maybe it's like, I don't know, like going on a bike ride. It's type 1 fun, right? Like it's just fun and you're like, woo, this is fun. Type 2 fun is like climbing a mountain, like you're sweating and you're like, why the fuck am I doing this? This is hard as shit. Type 3 fun is like the fun that's like, fuck, I'm going to die. But when you get back to the truck, you're like, holy shit, like I got a whole new outlook on life. So we're trying to enable like just living a type 3 ethos. Like you're always going to have shit in your life that you weren't ready for. Like you might get a cancer diagnosis. Your spouse might die. Your parents might die. Your dog might die. I talk about death a lot because I've dealt with that a lot in my life. But you might have these unexpected things. You lose a job. That's a real shitty thing in your life that you now have to deal with. And it's type 3. It's like something you don't want to have to deal with. But once you get past it, like you're a stronger person. So our whole goal is to just like build guys up by doing hard shit. It's that whole become able to deal with adversity by facing adversity. So we put adversity right in front of you. These trips are meant to be challenging and hard. And at times you're going to say, what the fuck am I doing? But when you get back to your house and you talk to your friends and you tell people and you tell your family about it, they're going to see that flicker in your eye that like something's changed. And that's what type 3 life is all about. We want people to live a type 3 life where they're confident that they know they can overcome any hurdle that comes in their way, whether it's a diagnosis, whether it's a death, whether it's a loss of a job, whatever it is, the house burns down. You know you can overcome that shit because you're living a type 3 life.
Love it. Love it. Well, what I always say on this podcast is life happens for you. It doesn't happen to you. We're not the result of the circumstances in our lives.
I 100% agree with that saying. I think it happens for you, and you got to kind of take the bull by the horns and make it what it is and just deal with the shit and make it as good as you can.
I love it. Brother, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. It's been a blast.
This was awesome, man. I'm happy to come back anytime. Let's get that bear hunt on the schedule. let's get out together. Let's go have some fun.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. All right, guys, everybody listening to the podcast, go check out type3life.com. Go read the articles. There's actually an article on there written by the man himself, the Ronto, that caught my eye because the article titles Why Men Need Community. I'm like, yeah, duh. We need community. That's why we talk about building community. That's why mentorship is conservation. If you want to invest, if you want hunting to last for generations to come, you got to invest in the lives of other people. You never know what seed is going to be planted and grow into a mighty, powerful tree that lasts for generations to come. Everybody, remember that life is happening for you, not to you. Hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that mentorship is conservation. I'm Johnny Mack, Paul Ronto. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.